Hey, hope you're well. I just wanted to do another Wirestock video, and I know this comes pretty quickly on the heels of my last one, but I want to do this before I forgot some of my thoughts on Wirestock. So yeah, today's video is just going to be on the 5 things that I think Wirestock could do to actually make it a great site to contribute to. One of the biggest things about Wirestock, where I think the biggest promise is with the auto keywording, the AI, artificial intelligence, keywording and description opportunities for both commercial and editorial images. Because I think this really takes a big chunk of the work out of microstock. And given that it's not necessarily a high revenue activity, the less we do, the better it is for contributors. But unfortunately, the keywords and the descriptions as they are now, they're just not that good. I've put up enough images on Wirestock, and I've looked back at the descriptions and the keywords to know that there are problems. And if your images are not keyworded or titled properly, there's a good chance that they don't sell. So I think for me, the number one issue that Wirestock has to get right and has to do better is the results or the quality of the keywording and the descriptions. So that's my number one for Wirestock to fix and get right. Number 2, better data on contribution status for the partner companies that Wirestock works with. So what I mean is, or what I'm looking for from Wirestock is better labeling or more data on what images have been accepted, what images have been declined on the sites where your images are being submitted. As it stands, as you know, and this is something that I discussed in my last video as well, it's very hard to tell whether your image has been accepted or not. With the Shutterstock, it does say, and I found some with adobestock too that show if it's been declined, and it'll give a reason for that, and that's fine. But the rest of the images that I have, or a big bulk of the images that are to Dreamtime or wherever, it just says submitted, and no indication of whether it's been accepted or refused. And if you're submitting at any volume, there's no way you can go back and check to see whether they've actually been sort of accepted on those sites. And the problem I have with that is, that's something that I want to know because depending on how you do microstock, maybe your strategy is to submit to Wirestock first. If they get declined, maybe you take a second pass at it and submit it on your own account on those sites. Those are the kind of things that people might try in the future, right? And so you'd want to have the knowledge about what's happened with that image that you submitted. Is it live somewhere or is it not? It's just important to know. So I do hope they clean that up and get that fixed. Okay, the third thing that I want to bring up that's not great and I think Wirestock needs to fix is the contributor experience. Now, one of the major issues with Wirestock is the landing page for your portfolio. Now, as you probably know already, Wirestock is not just a site where you have your images distributed out to other sites. Wirestock will sell the images itself or through its partners, and part of the process is they include a portfolio page where a potential buyer can link and buy direct from Wirestock. The portfolio page is not good. The quality of the thumbnails is terrible. If you click on it, it gets a little bit better, but there's no reason or excuse for the portfolio page to be in such a state of low quality. So I really think that needs to be fixed up, soon actually. And I also think on the contributor side of things, so, under the hood, lots of improvements could be made. I know there's not really much in the way of stats like some of the other sites do. I like that, actually. I really like to see it. I think that's one of the areas where Shutterstock, for example, does a great job. And so I would like to see more sales data be included. And some of the other things that I think would make it really a much better experience would include like remembering user settings. So for example, you get to select which channels that you want. I would like those, your settings there, or an option to remember so that you're not having to go in. So for example, if you don't submit to every single channel listed, you have to go in every time you submit photos and sort of uncheck one of those, or whichever ones you're not submitting to. So I think that should be sort of an option to remember that, or maybe it should go by your last submission, just so you're not have to doing repetitive work. We want to reduce repetitive activities as much as possible. So yeah, I think the user experience, there can be a significant upgrade here going forward. So hopefully that happens. One other thing that I think needs to happen is, and maybe this will happen, I don't know, so this is kind of speculative at this point, but some of the sites now have programs that provide additional income to contributors. And so the obvious one is the adobestock program, where they were paying, I think it was $5 per image to go into a free image pool for a year. Now I don't know what's going to happen with Wirestock if something like that came up again. What would happen? Would Wirestock images be included in that sort of process? Would those payments get flown back to contributors? The reason why I'm wondering about this point is Adobestock offered opt-in to participate. So you got to go through and choose whether you wanted to participate at all, whether you wanted specific images in or out. And I don't know how that is going to integrate with a product like Wirestock, because we're just submitting and then it seems like that's it. So that is a big question for me. And I think Wirestock needs to support those kind of programs if those kind of programs continue to be used, particularly by major microstock companies like adobestock. So for me, that's a big one actually, and I'd like to see Wirestock address that in the near term. And the last thing that I think Wirestock needs to do is to look at internal incentives for contributors, much like some of the other sites do, with levels, like the Shutterstock has levels. You know, even Deposit Photos has a level and a contributor system. So the more images you have, like the bigger your portfolio, the better your sales are, the better you get as far as earnings go. Now I know they have a flat fee and maybe they don't go that route, but I think that's something that I would like to see, because that makes it more competitive and makes it stand up with the other microstock sites a little bit better. And even if they just did it on their own sales, so microstock sales or sales to their partners that's not within the microstock, the push out to their microstock sites, even that would be nice if they could put a program for incentivizing success for contributors. I'd love to see something like that that would make it more valuable to me to participate in Wirestock rather than just submit myself to the sites directly. Okay, so those are the 5 things that I want to see Wirestock do. Hopefully they are watching these kind of videos and respond to some of the views of the microstock community, because we've been doing this for a while, and we know what works and what doesn't work, and we want to see some of these things implemented so that the contributor experience is as great as it can be.